Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar. We've got school leaders from all over the country joining through the Head Teacher Chat community, and that is what we're all about, sharing ideas, encouraging each other and working together to make the magic happen in our schools. And today we're shining a spotlight on the BBC's 500 Words competition, a wonderful celebration of storytelling and a perfect way to get your children writing for pleasure. It's fun, it's creative, and it's a chance for your pupils to have their voices heard. This is especially important right now, with the National Literacy Trust's new report, which tells us that there's only 26% of children who are aged 8 to 18 who enjoy writing in their free time. That, sadly, is the lowest level we've had since records began. And as head teachers and school leaders, we can help to turn that around. By encouraging our pupils to take part in projects like this, we show them that their stories matter, that creativity is something to celebrate, and that they have a national platform for their ideas. So it's an absolute pleasure to welcome all of our guests today.
If it's easy, you can just say Simon and then we can each introduce ourselves. Just do it by name and we'll say where we're from. That's fine.
It's okay. I'll edit that bit out. We'll just go straight in. Thank you. So before we get started, let me introduce the fantastic speakers that we have today. We've got Simon Hunt, otherwise known as Mr. Hunt from the Front, a primary school teacher and a creativity champion who inspires children through imaginative teaching and storytelling. Welcome, Simon.
Thanks for inviting me today.
We also are joined by Jason, who comes from the National Literacy Trust, who works very hard to connect schools and communities and families to improve literacy outcomes throughout the UK. Welcome, Jason.
Thanks, hi everyone.
And I'm so pleased to be joined by Andrea as well from the Oxford University Press with over 20 years experience in literacy and language development. Welcome, Andrea.
Hi, Lucy. Hi, everyone. Great to be here.
So we're very grateful that you've all joined us together, and we're going to be chatting all about the competition over the next half an hour. So let's get started. So first of all, let's start with you, Simon, if that's okay. For those of you who don't know, Simon is a primary school teacher with a real flair for creativity in the classroom. You're well known, aren't you, Simon, for using your imaginative ways to engage children in learning, and you're a big champion of projects that put pupil voice centre stage. So could you start us off by telling us a little bit about how you are involved in the competition and what your experience has been so far?
So I previously entered the competition as a teacher years ago when it was on BBC Radio, and I used to love the competition because it was just a way of the children just writing, just to write, basically, just to have fun with words and play with language. So when it came back a couple of years ago, I was so excited that it was coming back, but also to be part of it and just to sort of see how it's developed and be part of how the BBC and all the work that they're doing is just, the whole point is to get children being creative and get children enjoying writing. And that's why I was to be part of it, to help children write. Because for me, if I have one child that struggled with writing, but now writes for the fun, then everything that we do is worth it. The fact that it's not just one child, it's thousands of children. And also my own son last year, he did it last year. And he was diagnosed with dyslexia, struggled with writing, has these amazing ideas, always struggled to get it from here to here. So when he knew that Daddy was part of the BBC and he's working with 500 Words, they did it in his school. And he raced home and he read his story to me. And that, for me as a parent as well, not just as a teacher, to see the impact that that can have is just amazing. Again, struggled with writing. She was diagnosed with dyslexia halfway through year 4 in my class. And she has these amazing ideas. She just struggled to get it from here onto paper. And what she would do is she would have this amazing vocabulary, but she would, instead of saying the word, I don't know, gargantuan, she would write big because she can spell big. But when I said, I don't care about your spelling, just play with words, play with language, have a go and see what you can do and be creative. Unleash the shackles for her, but you also unleash the shackles as a teacher. And it's just that opportunity to see what the children enjoy writing about, and you also learn about the children as well. So going back to that little girl, she entered the competition and she went home and she continued the writing, and then she raced into school. She said, Mr. Hunt, Mr. Hunt, we've entered. And she couldn't believe that she'd entered. And then she was one of the ones that got a certificate to say that she got through. And I remember banging on my window because my window was like here in the morning and they can see me getting ready in the morning. She was banging on and she was like, the certificate against the window for me to see. And I saw it, and that for me, that just warmed my heart. So that's why I'm in the middle of Spain now. When you messaged me, Lucy, saying, can we have this chat? I said, yes. This is the only thing that I would stop for would be for you, Lucy, and for children getting creative. It's the only thing I would stop a holiday for. Because, like I said, being part of this and getting children just writing and being creative is just an amazing thing to see. And also you get to know like I know that one of my children last year loved sloths because of something that I read. I know another boy supports Everton and he knows I support Arsenal. So I found out about children, about their interest by just saying write about what you want to write about. And like we'll find out later, there's trends about what children are writing about and certain things. And it's just interesting as a teacher just to start to see that. I was one of those children in year 3, 4, 5, 6 that would be sat there going, well, this, struggling with my grammar, I hate this, I've got these ideas, but I just don't want to write because, for example, every Thursday morning at 9:30, I used to pretend to be ill because that was spelling test every single week. That was me. I was that boy. And now I'm a teacher and I've written a couple of books as well because of my class and because of my children. So I'm just passionate about it. As a teacher and a parent, both sides, how important it is and the things that the children can create. And it's amazing, amazing thing to see children writing. And, one day in the future, there could be a child that entered the competition this year or last year that in 10, 20 years time may become an author, and their journey could have started because of the 500 words competition. It could have begun there.
Oh, it was amazing. I completely understand that there's nothing more magical than seeing a child go from not being able to write to having a go at writing. And, that might seem a very small step to most people, but for a child who really struggles with writing, it's a huge step. And just to see their confidence grow and to really enjoy writing, it's the best bit about teaching, I feel. It's the bit I miss the most, Simon, the bit I miss the most. I'm always saying I really miss teaching children to read and write. It's my favourite bit. But it's you and I, all of us today, we're all on a mission to get as many schools to sign up to this competition as possible. Could you tell us a little bit about the competition and how we can all take part?
Yeah, so the competition opens in September, which I think is a really good time because it's the start of the academic year. You can go onto the website, there's lots of information there. There's videos, there's resources, there's information for teachers and for children to inspire the children. But if you want to spark some ideas, there's lots of things on there to help children. And as well as a teacher, because it's September, if you have that creative writing, you can then see like, oh, loads of my children in my class, they struggle with speech marks, inverted commas, and see that they're spelling a particular word. So then I can use that as a teaching tool throughout the rest of the academic year to sort of hit that. And like I said before, you can also see what the children are interested in. So it works for the teacher as well as the children. But yeah, there's lots of information on the website, lots of resources. So you're not, as a teacher, starting from scratch. There's lots of really, really good, valuable resources and research there to use as a teacher.
That's amazing. You can see that on the website there is lots and lots of information for you. There's teaching lessons, there's downloadable templates, everything you need really to take part in the competition, which will help to inspire your children. So head over to BBC Teach website to have a look at that. Superb. Thank you so much, Simon. That was really, really helpful. I get so excited about the competition. I think it's a really fabulous way to get children writing and love writing. And I used to do it as a whole school, so we get as many children involved as possible. But there's a real reason, isn't there, Jason, why we all need to encourage our children to be reading nowadays, with 26% of children enjoying writing in their free time. It seems such a low number.
It's incredibly low. And yeah, I'm afraid after all of Simon's great ideas and enthusiasm, I'm going to start as the merchant of doom and gloom, but I promise we will pick it up. And, BBC 500 Words is absolutely one of the key ways to address challenges like this. So I'll give you a couple of numbers. The first one, as you said, is that 26% of young people who say that they enjoy writing in their free time. And that has a big knock on the frequency with which they do it, because actually only about 1 in 10 young people say that they actually write in their own time as well. And just as with reading, we know that there's a really strong connection between enjoying a thing, doing a thing more, and being better at it. So we also know from the research that children and young people who enjoy the act of writing are 5 times more likely to do it. So when it comes down to what's the solution phase, which is where we all have to get to, it is about that enjoyment and that engagement. And Simon already touched on a few of those key things. What is the motivation? What's the thing that a young person might care about? And we know from our survey, which was over 100,000 8 to 18-year-olds, so it's a massive data set. But young people are telling us that they write to explore feelings and emotion, they write for well-being, but they also write to express identity. And I think that's one of the incredible things about writing for a young person. It is actually a free space to do it. And what we really want to do is, just as Simon kind of said there, get away from the fact that there's a perfect way to do it, that there's a particular thing, that your spelling and punctuation and grammar, sure, they matter to an extent, but actually let's get the enjoyment right, then the frequency goes up, then the skills come along afterwards. And that's the journey that we need to make for every child.
I love that, and I think that's so important. Don't you? I'm sure you agree, Simon. Like, the enjoyment around writing a story is everything. I used to allow children in my class to write stories. They could choose any subject. So if they were interested in something like snails or mini beasts or something like that, they could write about those. I was an early years teacher. You got so much more out of the children if they were excited about the subject and if they were interested in it, than if you're trying to force them to write about something they're not necessarily, they don't like, they're not interested in it. It's a really important thing to consider. Jason, that's still concerning though, isn't it? Such a low percentage of children wanting to write. It's also affecting speech and language across schools. You know, we're hearing lots of children who are entering reception nowadays in schools who don't have as many abilities as they used to have in terms of speaking and listening and independence, etc., etc. Probably since COVID, but who knows? Who really knows? But Andrew, you collate all of that wonderful information from all those stories, and you do something magical with it. Do you want to tell us about what the Oxford University Press do?
Yeah, sure. So we love BBC 500 Words. It's a brilliant competition, encouraging creativity and all the things that sort of Simon and Jason have talked about. But for us, it gives us a real insight into what children are interested in and what they love to write about and how they play with language. So we've been collecting and analysing the writing for over a decade now, actually. And we can start to see some really fascinating trends in what those young people are writing about and the influences on them. And I think what you say about sort of playing to what they're really interested in is so evident in the data that we gather from this competition. So unsurprisingly, children love to feature celebrities in their stories. We see a lot of stories about meeting celebrities or celebrity events. Last year, Taylor Swift was the #1 celebrity in terms of featuring in the stories, not surprising there. But we also see enduring celebrities. So Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo are featured in stories in every one of those 10 years that we've been doing the language analysis, have a deep and long-lasting influence on children, as well as the sort of more current things. And then we also see references to popular culture really coming through in children's stories. And again, you get that mix of enduring classics. So Cinderella, I think, was one of the top ones last year. Spider-Man, Minecraft, so things that have been around for a long time. You know, children are still living them, experiencing them, and then featuring them in their stories. Last year, we saw the Inside Out 2 movie was a big influence on the stories. Lots of stories featuring emotions and emotions as characters, and children using the word ennui in their stories, which would never have happened without the influence of that film, I would hazard a guess. And then we also see how children are really tuned into the world around them and current affairs, which is always a really lovely thing to see. So you see stories about elections that came up particularly in last year's competition, children writing about national disasters, major sporting events. So what we tend to see is, you know, what's going on in the world right now during the phase of the competition coming up in stories. So I'm hazarding a guess that the lionesses might appear again in the same way that they did a few years ago, which would be lovely. And then I guess we also see, so you've got this sort of enduring themes. We also see trends that are growing. And I think when we look at the data and we look at what children are writing about now compared to 10 years ago, the two key differences, I think, are probably around well-being and mental health. So we can say a lot about the sort of detrimental impacts of COVID, but I would say that one of the things we see in children's stories is that real willingness to talk about and write about well-being and mental health, and a real sense of empathy for other people coming through in the writing. So there's a real positive element to that coming through in children's stories. And then the other thing, unsurprisingly, is around technology and social media. So we've always seen those kind of things featuring, but artificial intelligence is definitely the aspect that is growing in children's writing and children's storytelling, both as a positive and a negative force. So perceptions of it are very different. I would say that most children still connect AI with robots. So the assumption is that an AI has a physical presence, it is some sort of robot or being, which is really interesting in itself. But the powerful story, I think it was called A New Harmony, which was one of the gold winning stories last year, really demonstrated that astute understanding of the need for us to find a balance between what technology can do and what humanity brings to the table, and how you kind of play to the strengths of those different aspects. Because we sort of use some of this language to inform our publishing and our dictionary data, we always love seeing how children play with language through their stories. So in 2024, lots of stories about capybaras, which blew our minds. We're like, why suddenly a capybara is a thing? Turns out there's a viral TikTok trend, and that's what children want to write about. And then one of my particular favourites was the use of the phrase phantom tags, which is inspired by a popular social media blogger. Basically means something to do with friends pinching food from each other. But it was brilliant because none of the grown-ups at OUP knew what a phantom tax was until we got these stories and we started analysing the language. So children are amazing at magpieing from the world around them. It's the reason I love to see as many children submitting stories, because we learn something from them every single year through that language data analysis. Pass that on to teachers and school leaders, and they can think about how they look at the world around them and the language that children are using that might not be what you'd put in a writing assessment, but is joyous and lovely and fun all the same.
That's amazing. So we've heard from you, Jason, to say the importance of why we should take part in the competition, and also, you know, the reason behind our drive to get as many children writing as possible. We've heard from Andrea to say we've got all of this information where children are playing with the use of language, they're enjoying the use of language, and we've got all the resources on the website, haven't we, Simon, with all the teaching resources. Simon, can you tell us, how do we start? Where do we start with the competition? What can we do to support children that don't find it easy, despite all of this information that we've got around us? What can we do?
Like Andrea said, technology, to use the technology to help us, it's there. So my school is an inclusive school. So we have lots of children that struggle with, like I've said before, ideas from here to here, whether they'll lose their ideas when they're trying to write it down, it sometimes disappears, or they just struggle to get it from here to here. So what they do, we have some children that an iPad, so they dictate into the iPad, but it's still their words, it's still all their stories. They'll say this sentence in the iPad, because when they're dictating, it'll write it down, and then when they stop the sentence, they'll hit pause, and then they'll write the words down. So it removes that barrier, because with some of our children, if they were trying to write it down, they'd maybe forget what they wanted to say, or their idea would be lost. So that's what it's a way of making sure it's still their words, it's still all their ideas, it's a way of scaffolding it for them. I also have a couple of children that struggle with noise. So we have some children that wear headphones that have noise cancelling headphones. You see children wear those, but we also have some that use white noise. So I have a couple of children this past year that when we did some creative writing, they would have the babble of the sea or of a river. They'd plug into the headphones and they'd have that, and then they'd be writing. So there is technology for us to use. I think some teachers, when you're talking about AI, that some teachers go, I don't like technology, that's not my thing. But if it can get the children creative and it can help support them with their writing, we use it just the same as a dictionary. We use a dictionary to find a word that we don't know. If we're not quite sure what that word means, there are tools there. And when you mentioned before, Jason, about grammar is important, I'm not saying forget grammar, it doesn't exist anymore. But what you can do, and what we do with my class in my school, is use the 500 words to pick up on certain grammatical things. And we also say you can break the rules of grammar if you want. But the interesting thing by saying that is, if you know you're breaking the rule, you need to know what the rule is in the first place. So you can sort of teach it the other way around. So, why didn't you kind of go that way? And it's just fun, like, let's break the rules, and then you can sort of teach grammar the other way. So we still need to teach the grammatical concepts and stuff. But it's just a fun thing to say, we're going to break rules, because which child, if you say to them, let's break some rules, doesn't go, yeah.
Well, a competition is supposed to be fun. They're supposed to enjoy it. So actually, yeah, let them play. Let them see what happens. You know, if you don't have your grammar in your sentences, what goes wrong? And let them explore language. That's all part of the enjoyment, as Jason was talking about, the use of words that Andrew was chatting about. It's exciting. So thank you so much for joining us, everybody. You guys have been fantastic. The BBC's competition opens on the 23rd of September, which isn't long to go. It's very easy to take part. All of the information you need is on the BBC Teach website. So you can head over to that to take a look. As we said, all of the resources are there to help you enter your whole school, if you're an infant school, for example, into the competition. There's even a guide from us at Head Teacher Chat on the BBC website and also on our website, written especially for school leaders to tell you exactly step by step how to do it with your school so that you don't have any worries about the situation. If you are able to, please do enter your school into the competition, as it's a brilliant opportunity to encourage your school to have a love of writing, to give all writers the confidence to join in, to celebrate creativity in your pupils, and to be part of a national celebration of children's voices. We're so grateful you joined us today, and we hope we've given you everything you need to inspire your pupils to get their stories entered. And as always, the Head Teacher Chat community is always here to share ideas and support one another. So please head over to our website, headteacherchat.com/community, to keep the conversation going. Let's help each other and let's make a big difference to children in their writing in the future. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we look forward to listening to all those stories in the competition when they come through. Thanks, everybody.